We all go to the supermarket, but if you slow down for a moment, memory will remind you that things used to be very different. Do you remember those Saturday mornings, waiting for the doorbell to ring, leisurely walking down the aisles and breathing in the scent of freshly ground coffee wafting through the air? Those small shops always knew what your family bought, what you were missing, and sometimes asked about more than just business. Today, let's go back in time to find the things that have disappeared from modern grocery stores, the tiny details that once made up the soul of old-time America. A trip to the grocery store started in the parking lot, where cars as long as land yachts took up all the space and the sun reflected brightly off their metal bodies. Back then, when the food in the fridge was running low, visiting the supermarket became a necessary and unavoidable task for every family. People usually drove big Buicks or Cadillacs, patiently circling the crowded lot to find the best spot just so their car wouldn't get scratched by the door of the car next to it. In those days, walking into the store meant seeing shelves that were always full without the rush or the coldness. In the shopper's hands was usually a sales flyer printed on rough, scratchy paper, handed out regularly every week, so familiar that you knew where you were just by touching it. The atmosphere in the shop was always friendly. The seller remembered the faces of regular customers, and the customers knew what they should buy for dinner that night. In the 1950s, middle-class families were willing to spend about 15% of their income on food. Eating back then was an important part of life, not just to fill the belly, but to take care of the family. Compared to the figure of about 7% today, you can see that food back then wasn't cheap. But in return, there was a sense of being served thoughtfully, being cared for, and being connected. The boom of self-checkout technology and industrialized operating systems has erased this personal closeness in exchange for dry speed and convenience. The grocery store is no longer a place where people stop to enjoy the atmosphere, but just a quick stop in the hustle and bustle of life. Just stepping through the door of the old store, we weren't greeted by soulless barcode scanners, but instead by a warm smile and bright hand-painted discount signs stuck on the glass. Right at the entrance, the clattering engine of coin-operated mechanical horses and colorful candy machines were always a magnet for every child. Shopping carts back then were taller than they are now, with a foldable iron seat for children to sit underneath, creating an interesting view while moving through the aisles. What stays deepest in many people's minds is the cashier or the butcher greeting customers by their first names or calling them formally as Mr. or Mrs. This connection turned buying and selling into heartfelt conversations between longtime friends. However, the scale of supermarkets today has become so huge that it's impossible for staff to remember the names of the thousands of guests who visit every day. The change in personnel management, prioritizing quick and efficient processes over building personal bonds, has pushed this beauty into the past. The entrance wasn't just a transition area, but used to be a small entertainment zone and the place where the first brick of customer loyalty was laid. If grocery stores in the 1970s were already getting used to long aisles, shopping carts, and a faster pace of buying, then stepping back just a few more decades takes us into a completely different world. We begin with a figure who has almost disappeared. The store owner, someone who didn't just sell food, but personally stood behind every meal the town would eat. The owner had to personally check every head of lettuce, pick up every apple, and turn them to hide even the smallest bruises from the customer's eyes. The cold storage and freezer systems were also strictly controlled because meat and butter couldn't be left to the risks of unpredictable weather. In that era, orders weren't automated through computers, but done through short phone calls, letters, or through traveling salesmen visiting with suitcases full of samples and price books. The scent of yesterday's work still lingered in the air when the owner opened the door, blending with the smell of newly mopped wooden floors and fresh food. This meticulousness showed the spirit of responsibility and the heart of the traditional food business, where the owner's reputation was tied to every item sold. Now, modern logistics management systems using barcodes and artificial intelligence have completely replaced human eyes and hands. Everything becomes perfect in terms of process, but lacks the human touch of a dedicated shop owner like in the old days. Shopping at an old grocery store was like a real feast for the senses, with vibrant colors and rich aromas spreading everywhere. As soon as you pushed the door open, you could smell coffee being roasted and ground on site, blending with the smell of freshly baked bread drifting through the aisles. Flour sat neatly in large sacks. Beans were kept in wooden bins. Rice was scooped out from deep barrels. Salt was in a box with a lid, opened and then closed immediately to keep moisture from sneaking in. Cookies were kept in tin boxes, and tea, too, always placed far from heat sources. Canned goods stood in straight lines, as neat as a small army, with labels facing forward if the seller had time to arrange them. Glass jars filled with candy sparkled behind the glass, but candy wasn't something to buy every day. It was for the kids who were sent to buy groceries, for a small special occasion, or for a rare sweet moment in the middle of a hard work week. For the children, a trip to the market was a whole adventure. They pressed their faces against the live lobster tank, watching intently as the claws moved under the cool water, occasionally tapping lightly on the glass just to see if they would react. Tiny hands ran through smooth, dried beans, feeling the strange coolness and slipperiness, while the smell of freshly ground coffee followed them throughout the whole store. And then everyone looked forward to the Brack's Pick-a-Mix candy counter, the sweet paradise of childhood. For just 5 cents, a bag full of candy was balanced on a metal scale that went click, bringing a simple but unforgettable joy. These vivid experiences turned grocery shopping from a boring household chore into a small adventure for the whole family. However, strict food safety regulations and the trend of pre-packaged goods from the factory have gradually eliminated these interesting bulk bins. Everything now is wrapped in tight, shiny plastic film, clean but lacking the direct interaction and the inviting scent of a time long gone. The cereal aisle was once considered a place of intense but adorable psychological battles between parents and children. Cereal companies back then competed fiercely by using bright cartoon characters on the packaging, and especially the plastic toy hidden deep under the layer of cereal. Children would patiently beg and sometimes have screaming tantrums right in the aisle just to get their favorite box of cereal containing the secret gift. The image of children pouting after being disciplined, or their bright eyes when they finally got their way, is an inseparable part of old supermarket culture. Although cereal is still a popular breakfast food today, direct toy promotions inside the box have been significantly cut back due to strict safety regulations to prevent children from swallowing small objects. Besides, modern marketing campaigns have shifted to using digital discount codes or virtual gifts instead of physical toys. The cereal aisle is quieter now, more organized, but also lacks the extreme excitement it once brought to young souls always eager to discover surprises inside the cardboard box. If you also have unforgettable memories at the cereal aisle or want to share the coolest gift you ever received, press hype and leave a comment so we can reminisce together. The toy and comic section in old supermarkets usually took up only a very small corner, but to children, it was an entire enchanting universe. Creaky spinning racks were filled with colorful comics. With a light turn, another cover would appear before your eyes. Below were all kinds of cheap plastic toys, tiny cars, water guns, simple dolls. Knowing they were easy to break or damage, but just being able to hold them in hand while parents were still picking meat and choosing vegetables was enough to be happy all afternoon. But the excitement didn't just stop at that small toy. What the whole family really looked forward to every time they went to the market was the S&H green stamps. After each payment, the cashier would tear off a stack of thin green stamps, handing them over like a reward. Getting home, the whole family gathered around the dining table, carefully licking each stamp and sticking it neatly into the savings book. It was a job that was both meticulous and fun, where children also got to participate in the family's big business. When enough books were collected, the feeling of bringing them to the redemption center was truly like a trip to a festival. A new toaster, a shiny set of pots, even the first piece of furniture in the house, all were exchanged from those tiny stamps. Today, plastic membership cards or modern loyalty apps on smartphones have completely replaced the old green stamp books. The popularity of green stamps at one time was a testament to a form of saving and planned shopping for American families during the glorious years of the 20th century. Leaving the toy or cereal area, try looking at the space around you. You'll see people seem to dress more politely. In the old years, going to the supermarket was considered a social event that required careful preparation of appearance for both customers and staff. The sellers always appeared with a neat look, wearing ties and tucked-in shirts, showing maximum respect for customers. Customers, when stepping into the supermarket, also usually dressed politely, sometimes in church clothes or elegant dresses. You would never catch anyone wandering in the store in leggings or rumpled pajamas like now. Everyone, even just going to the morning market, was decent enough, as if appearing before the counter also needed a bit of mutual respect. The most out-of-place sight was perhaps a boy wearing shorts cut above the knee or an old lady with her head full of hair rollers. But even those images were very familiar and cute. A characteristic detail that surprises today's generation is the presence of sand-filled ashtrays placed at the end of each aisle. This allowed gentlemen to leisurely smoke while pushing the shopping cart with their wives. The image of old ladies with rollers on their heads, shopping early, blending with the faint smell of cigarette smoke, created a very distinct atmosphere of that era. However, as public health awareness increased, public smoking bans were enforced, and the sand ashtrays disappeared completely. At the same time, the culture of dressing also became more relaxed and casual, with the appearance of pajamas or sportswear in stores. This shift marked the end of an era where formality and politeness were the unwritten rules of community life. Before barcode technology took over the world, every item in the supermarket bore the deep mark of manual human labor. Most products back then were kept in thick tin cans or sturdy glass bottles. Ketchup, mayonnaise, pre-ground coffee, everything had a real weight when held in hand because the convenient, squeezable plastic bottle was still a thing of the future. Sweet treats, like Hostess ding-dongs, were carefully wrapped in foil, and strangely, many people still claim they tasted better and stayed fresh longer than today's version. Folgers or Maxwell House coffee was usually tucked into airtight tin cans, keeping the aroma so well that after using it all, no one had the heart to throw it away. Those cans continued a new life cycle in the shed, holding nails, screws, bolts, or any little thing that needed storing. But what many people remember most is the way prices were listed. Before barcodes appeared in 1974, every item was hand-priced. Someone would stand in the aisles all day, holding a price gun, patiently clicking tack, tack to stick each small label onto each product. That sound echoed evenly throughout the supermarket, becoming a part of the shopping memory. After using up the food, the sturdy tin cans were often reused to hold screws or small items in the shed. The birth of the barcode in 1974 created a revolution in management and payment, helping to save maximum labor and time. Although the old system required more manpower, it helped customers control prices visually right on the product without having to look up at electronic price boards. Plastic packaging today, though lighter and more durable, perhaps still lacks the rustic and close feeling of the tin cans and foil of a time gone by. Go back a few decades further, and grocery stores in 1925 were run in a far more hands-on way. Behind the old grocery counters was a whole system of work tools arranged scientifically and professionally. Large cast-iron bench scales were used to weigh heavy sacks of potatoes or grain, while shiny brass small scales took on the task of measuring tea, sugar, and spices most accurately. Wooden drawers full of small items, iron hooks for hanging meat, and dangling rolls of twine used to tie packages were indispensable images. People still vividly remember the rustling sound of wrapping paper and the clicking of the weights as the seller adjusted them to reach perfect balance on the scale. In addition, the store also sold essentials for rural life like kerosene or matches, because the line between a grocery store and a general store back then was often very thin. The skill of the seller using a large knife to cut cheese or slice meat expertly was an admirable professional skill. Today, automatic machines and electronic scales have made the process faster, but at the same time lost the beauty of traditional manual labor tools. These tools were not just support instruments. They were symbols of reliability and accuracy in every transaction of the old era. Do you still remember any sound or feeling from these tools? Please share, and don't forget to press like and subscribe to our channel to support us. One of the most interesting features of shopping in the old days was the ability to creatively reuse every item from the store. Families at that time always cherished lasting values and rarely threw away anything that was still useful. Glass jars, after finishing the jam or honey, were often washed to become durable water glasses or dry food containers in the kitchen. In particular, famous laundry detergent brands like Duz often had promotional campaigns by placing a high-quality glass or a handkerchief right inside the box. This created excitement for housewives every time they bought a new box so they could collect enough of the glass collection for the family. Children also had their own joy when utilizing old jars to catch fireflies in the garden on bright summer nights, watching their soft light before going to bed. These promotional glasses have now become high-value antiques sought after on online sites like eBay. The trend of using disposables and the change in marketing policies of brands have made these humanistic forms of promotion disappear. The spirit of thrift and the ability to utilize objects of previous generation families is a valuable lesson about cherishing resources that we should look back on in today's consumer society. The history of the American grocery store is tied to iconic products that shaped the living habits of a whole generation. We can mention the Nestle Quick tin boxes with very tight lids that customers had to use a spoon to pop open every time. A rather strange detail by today's standards was toilet paper that came in pink or blue to match the color of the tiles and interior in the bathroom. Additionally, buying soda was often done in packs of 8 glass bottles kept in sturdy plastic or wooden crates. The glass bottle deposit system back then was a very effective natural recycling model, where everyone was conscious of bringing empty bottles back to the store to get their deposit money back. However, health concerns related to dyes in toilet paper and the rise of plastic bottles for being light and cheap gradually erased these images. Glass bottles were gradually replaced by single-use plastic bottles, leading to the end of a meaningful manual recycling cycle. Looking back at these products is not just nostalgia, but also a regret for a sustainable consumption model, where plastic waste was not yet a painful problem like it is now. The moment of payment at old grocery stores was considered a full and humanistic customer service. Checkout lanes were always open, with the warm welcome of cashiers who frequently asked about your health and family. The special highlight of this process was the appearance of professional baggers. They knew how to pack things into brown paper bags in the most logical way. Heavy items at the bottom, eggs and bread on top, everything neat and sturdy, so that when you got home, almost nothing was shifted. They also didn't hesitate and were ready to help customers carry goods out to their cars. The image of cardboard milk cartons printed with photos of missing children was a haunting but socially responsible part of that era's memory. When the bagger finished the job and closed the car trunk, giving them a 25-cent tip was a familiar, polite gesture enough to say, "Thank you," for that thoughtfulness. Back then, types of milk were also very simple, only whole cow's milk instead of the endless nut milks or diet milks like now. To cut labor costs and speed up service, modern supermarkets have forced customers to bag and transport their own goods to the lot. This thoughtfulness and dedication once turned a daily household chore into an experience of being cared for and cherished, something that today's self-service systems can hardly provide. If today the entire payment is left to machines to handle, in the old days, hiring a cashier was perhaps even stricter than taking a civil service exam. In the time before machines, cashiers had to memorize the prices of thousands of items or enter prices using clunky mechanical buttons on the cash register. The dry sound of the buttons and the sound of the cash drawer opening were the characteristic sounds of the old supermarket. It sounds like it could easily lead to mistakes, but those cashiers worked remarkably fast. They rarely messed up. Even so, glancing over the receipt to check was still a habit that was never redundant. While waiting to pay, you might suddenly see a TV guide placed right near the counter and realize you forgot to grab one, a must-have essential for the whole week. And there was one very clear thing. No one asked if you wanted paper or plastic. The only choice back then was a brown paper bag, thick and sturdy, carefully packed by the bagger behind. When all the items were entered, it was your turn to bring out the stack of coupons already cut from the weekend newspaper. Payment could be in cash, check, or credit card. Back then, debit cards didn't exist yet. If paying in cash, the cashier would count back the change accurately and decisively. With a check, they asked to see ID, wrote the driver's license number on the check, and even called a manager if the amount was large. As for credit cards, they were processed with a manual sliding machine, carbon paper inserts, and embossing the card information onto each receipt. Although this process happened slower than today's barcode scanning or card tapping, it brought a sense of trust and transparency. The birth of laser scanners and digital payment systems has helped shopping become faster than ever, but also took away the meticulous interaction between buyer and seller. Anyway, society has developed. Imagine having to remember all the items of a supermarket today. Probably no one would dare to take this cashier job. In 1925, grocery stores had characteristics you wouldn't find anywhere today. Managing bulk goods and wholesale items was one of them. This was a risky economic problem and required deep understanding of food from the shop owner. Most goods at that time were not pre-packaged in vacuum packaging, so preserving flour, sugar, or coffee was no small challenge. Flour could get moldy if the air was too humid, sugar could clump into hard blocks, and coffee beans would quickly lose their characteristic flavor if not kept airtight. Fresh produce like vegetables also rotted very quickly if the owner didn't know how to rotate goods properly. The owner often felt the worry about waste in their gut because every spoiled item meant their family's income would decrease significantly. The existence of the store relied on customers' trust in the quality of items left open in large wooden bins. Today, modern packaging technology and safe preservatives have minimized the risk of spoiled goods at the point of sale. Although more convenient for the seller, this development has also lost the direct connection of the owner with the natural essence of the goods they provide to the community. The traditional grocery store was not just a mere shopping location, but also the cultural center of the whole community. In small towns with a population of only a few thousand, the store was where everyone stopped to exchange rumors, ask about a neighbor's illness, or share pride in their children. The shop owner knew every familiar face, from the weight of their footsteps to the unique shopping habits of each person. The image of women holding small shopping lists, carefully handwritten on the back of an old envelope, is a simple sketch of old life. Conversations at the counter often lasted longer than necessary for a sale, turning this place into a warm, real-life social network. Urbanization and the giant scale of modern supermarkets today have turned customers into anonymous numbers in an industrial operating system. Modern people often hurry through the aisles and rarely take time to talk directly to those around them. The old grocery store was once the soul of the town, where trust and neighborly relationships were nurtured through every bag of daily food. Every order at the old grocery store was performed like an artistic and precise measurement ritual. The seller used large scoops to take flour from the sack, poured it into a paper bag, and leveled it off expertly. Weighing sugar or salt was also done very carefully. Staff would adjust tiny brass weights on the scale until the balance bar reached a perfect state of equilibrium. The most characteristic sound was perhaps the cranking of the coffee grinder handle and the fresh aroma that exploded immediately as the beans were crushed at the customer's request. This meticulousness not only ensured customers received the correct weight they paid for, but also brought a sense of peace of mind about the freshest quality. Buying and selling at that time didn't have the support of industrial packaging lines, so everything depended on the skillful hands of the workers. Today, goods have been standardized in weight and pre-packaged from the factory, helping the shopping process go faster, but lacking the personal touch. The manual, laboring hands of old sellers were symbols of precision and heart, creating an absolute value of trust in the hearts of customers. In the world of old grocery stores, credit scores were not calculated by computer algorithms, but based on prestige and empathy between humans. Every owner possessed a thick ledger where they hand-wrote the names and debts of neighbors they met daily at church or parades. This system allowed families to take food first and pay later when they received their wages or when the harvest season ended. The owner was willing to let people go into debt because he understood who was having a hard time due to illness or unemployment, and he saw that as part of his responsibility to support the community. The familiar phrase, "just put it on my tab," was testament to a strong relationship based on absolute trust. The ledger was not just a financial management tool, but also a map of kindness and the self-respect of a whole town. The birth of the modern banking system and personal credit cards has completely commercialized trust, turning debts into soulless and purely transactional matters. Although the local manual debt book has receded into the past, it will always be a beautiful symbol of an era where people leaned on each other to get through the hard times of life. Speaking of retail history, we cannot forget the legendary names that shaped the face of modern stores today. Piggly Wiggly was the pioneer brand when it gave birth to the first self-service supermarket model in the world, completely changing the way humans approached goods. When Clarence Saunders introduced the self-service supermarket model in 1916, he didn't just change the store layout, he also changed the psychology of shoppers. For the first time, customers were allowed to push carts themselves, choose each item on the shelf themselves, compare prices themselves, and decide their own needs. Something that seems obvious today was a revolution at that time. The aisles were designed with purpose, forcing buyers to go through more booths, accidentally turning grocery shopping into a discovery experience instead of just buying and selling. Parallel to that, A&P, American Stores Company, represented the absolute power of scale. In the mid-20th century, with more than 4,000 stores stretching across America, A&P was not just a place to buy food, but also the standard for stability and reliability. For many families, going to A&P every week was a fixed habit, almost a ritual. It was right here that the stamp collection program became a part of family life. Stamp books were kept carefully in drawers, evenings where the whole family sat together sticking stamps, and the dream of exchanging for a new toaster or a set of pots created a bond that went far beyond material value. However, when America shifted to the suburbs, when giant shopping malls and low-price retail chains appeared, the old models gradually became cramped and slow. A&P, although once an unshakable icon, didn't keep up with that pace of change and officially ended its journey of more than 150 years in 2015. Their departure was not just a business failure, but the end of a way of life, a routine that was once very familiar. Nevertheless, brands like Piggly Wiggly or A&P never really disappeared. Their legacy still exists in every modern supermarket, in the way aisles are arranged, in the self-selection experience, and in the memory of generations who once considered going to the market a warm part of family life. Looking back at them is also looking back at a golden era, where retail didn't just sell goods, but also sold a sense of familiarity and trust. When the cart was full and every item was carefully packed, the shopping session ended in a sense of satisfaction and relaxation. A mother usually fulfilled her last promise to her child by letting them ride on the wooden mechanical horse at the entrance or buying a small candy bar as a reward for being well-behaved. The image of the bagger helping to load each brown paper bag into the trunk of the giant car and receiving a few coins of change as a tip was a perfect ending for a daily household task. Those 25-cent coins back then were small, but contained appreciation for the labor of dedicated servers. As the car slowly left the crowded parking lot, customers brought home not just food for the coming week, but also new stories and a warm feeling from personal interactions. Supermarkets today are designed in an industrial style for customers to get in fast and out fast, sometimes making us feel a bit empty after completing a transaction. Going to the market in the old days was truly a complete ritual, where people had time to slow down and enjoy the simple moments of life. Going home was not just finishing a transaction, but returning to the nest with fresh gifts that had been chosen with all the care. The vibrant 70s with bell-bottoms, feathered hair, and warm earth tone interior styles gradually gave way to a new era. This was the golden age of indoor malls, filled with greenery, fountains, and the ideal dating spot for youth. However, as it stepped into the 80s, the retail landscape began to shift strongly toward a flashy, modern style with neon lights and shiny chrome materials. The appearance of giant supermarket chains led to family spending on food decreasing significantly compared to previous decades. By the 80s, food accounted for less than 10% of average income, reflecting the change in the economy and consumer habits. Cozy, small independent shops were gradually replaced by soulless hypermarkets where convenience was placed above all. This transition was not just about architecture or fashion, but also marked the end of an era of deeply personal shopping. Although neon lights brought a futuristic and exciting look, perhaps they also accidentally dimmed the warmth of the old grocery counters, where human kindness was always the most precious item given away every day. The grocery store has changed more than we thought, not just in the way it's laid out, but in the pace of life inside it. Back in the day, the grocery store was a slow place. Goods sat behind the counter, customers stood waiting, and everything passed through the hands of the seller. You didn't choose yourself. You trusted. Trusted in the shop owner who knew which kind of rice was new, which piece of meat was good, which weight was enough for a family. Then the aisles appeared, shelves stretched out, carts rolled. Buyers entered the world of choice, comparing, reading labels, considering prices, changing their minds. The grocery store gradually became a self-service space where speed was more important than conversation, where bright lights replaced a familiar greeting. Today, many stores don't even need a person standing at the counter. Scanners, self-checkout machines, delivery apps, everything is optimized to save time. But at the same time, something quietly disappears. Fewer eyes meet. Fewer questions like, has your family tried this dish? Less of the feeling of being served by a real human. The grocery store still sells food, but it doesn't always sell that sense of belonging like before. And perhaps that's the biggest change. Safeway. Safeway is one of the most recognizable grocery store chains in the U.S., with a long history since its founding in 1915. With its iconic S logo, Safeway was once a familiar sight on streets across the American West Coast. Safeway was known for its innovative private labels and commitment to providing quality products at lower prices. A unique aspect of their architecture was their store's distinctive marina-style architecture, featuring curved roofs and large glass windows, which became a signature style in the 1960s. Safeway even pioneered the introduction of some of the earliest forms of self-checkout lanes in the late 90s, demonstrating continuous innovation in the shopping experience. However, like many other chains, Safeway struggled with fierce competition from larger retailers and discount chains. Although Safeway has not completely disappeared, its presence has significantly shrunk, and many iconic locations have been sold or rebranded. A few classic marina-style buildings still exist today, some repurposed as new businesses, serving as architectural remnants of a golden era. Alpha Beta. If you lived in California or the southwestern U.S. states in the 70s and 80s, you would surely remember Alpha Beta, a grocery chain famous for its incredibly innovative approach. Stemming from its name, the stores operated on the rule of arranging items alphabetically. This helped customers easily find products and made the chain's name. The stores were known for their bright, clean aisles and friendly staff, focusing on convenience and customer service. Many remember Alpha Beta's distinctive jingle playing on TV and radio in the 70s and 80s, which further solidified its place in popular culture. Alpha Beta was also one of the pioneering chains to introduce loyalty programs with its Alpha Beta Bonus Savings Club. Not limited to groceries, Alpha Beta also surprisingly sold Atari consoles and color TVs in the 70s and 80s, showcasing a breakthrough in business. Despite many innovations and a focus on the community, Alpha Beta could not keep up with larger competitors and was gradually sold off in the late 1980s and early 1990s, undergoing multiple acquisitions. Finally, by 1994, the company merged with the Ralph's chain, and the name Alpha Beta disappeared completely. Food Lion. Food Lion, founded in 1957 in Salisbury, North Carolina, was known for its commitment to affordability and a no-frills approach. You would surely remember the lion mascot prominently featured in its advertisements, which became a familiar symbol. Their MVP customer program offered countless discounts and deals to loyal customers. The chain was also known for its focus on quick, efficient service, keeping checkout lines short with a less waiting policy, something highly favored by customers. However, Food Lion faced a major challenge in the early 1990s when an article exposed its food handling practices, severely damaging the chain's reputation. A former Food Lion employee had negative experiences working there, with meat managers changing dates and labels on old meat. Despite efforts to recover, the scandal harmed its reputation, leading to the closure of many locations. Today, Food Lion still operates in select areas, but its presence is much smaller than during its heyday. Kohl's. Kohl's was once a grocery store before transforming into the retail giant it is now. Maxwell Kohl opened the first Kohl's food store in 1946 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The 1950s saw rapid growth for this chain. They not only expanded in number, but also introduced a distinctive arched roof design that became Kohl's brand, making the stores easily recognizable from a distance. By the early 1960s, Maxwell Kohl had built the company into the largest grocery store chain in the Milwaukee area. However, the fate of Kohl's grocery division changed when A&P acquired the grocery division in 1982. After this transaction, A&P continued to operate Kohl's grocery stores for a while, but eventually closed them completely in 2003. Fortunately, Kohl's department stores proved more resilient and have lasted much longer than their original grocery segment. Thus, Kohl's today remains a very familiar and thriving department store chain across the country, a testament to its successful adaptability and business model transformation. Dominick's. Dominick's was a familiar Chicago icon for nearly a century. Founded in 1918 by Dominic DiMatteo, a passionate Italian immigrant, the store quickly made its mark due to its community ties and commitment to fresh local food. Dominick's stood out with its high-quality meat and bakery items, along with an in-house deli model, where customers could enjoy freshly warmed Italian sandwiches, a groundbreaking idea at the time. By the 1980s, they even experimented with in-store cafes and photo processing services, transforming the grocery store into a multi-service destination, a true one-stop shop, offering everything from video rentals to photo development. However, by the 80s and 90s, Dominick's expanded rapidly but struggled with fierce competition from national chains like Jewel Osco and new entrants like Walmart. The death of Dominic DiMatteo Jr. in 1993 and the family's loss of passion for continuing the business weakened the chain. In the late 1990s, Safeway acquired Dominick's, and this shifted the focus from quality first to price first. As a result, sales and customer satisfaction declined. By 2013, the last Dominick's stores closed, leaving many feeling nostalgic for what it once was. Winn-Dixie. Winn-Dixie was a familiar Southern icon for decades, with a history dating back to 1925. If you grew up in the South in the 60s and 70s, you might remember Winn-Dixie as the place where you bought groceries for traditional Sunday dinner or stopped by for a cool ice cream cone after a hot summer day. Winn-Dixie was not just a store, but also a place where neighborhoods came together, where everyday stories were shared. Many people still remember Winn-Dixie for its weekly promotions and the chain's familiar red and white logo. Winn-Dixie's uniqueness lay in its friendly service and community-oriented atmosphere. Their slogan, "Customer is King," was not just a saying, but a business philosophy that resonated with people. However, the rise of larger chains like Walmart, along with financial difficulties, led to Winn-Dixie's decline. They filed for bankruptcy in the early 2000s. Nevertheless, a few locations still operate today in the South, retaining part of its legacy. In 2023, Winn-Dixie was acquired by Aldi Süd, and most stores are being converted into Aldi, marking a new era for locations that were once the heart of Southern communities. Cash and Carry. Cash and Carry began its journey in 1947 as Big Barn in Florida before officially changing its name to Cash and Carry in 1960. This name clearly reflected the chain's business philosophy, focusing on low prices and no-frills shopping. Their stores didn't have fragrant bakeries or enticing dining areas, just simple shelves, packed with essentials at the lowest possible prices. This very minimalism was its strength. Quick purchase, quick exit, no fuss. Cash and Carry was also very popular with customers for its attractive promotions, especially its popular double coupon days, which helped shoppers save significantly. However, Cash and Carry faced fierce competition from larger chains like Publix and Walmart, rivals with superior financial resources and operational scale. After a series of sales and ownership changes, the company filed for bankruptcy in 1994. By 2004, to modernize and shed its old image, the company was rebranded as Sweet Bay Supermarket. But even Sweet Bay could not withstand the pressure of the fiercely competitive market. In 2013, Sweet Bay was sold and many locations were converted into Winn-Dixie's, another name previously mentioned on this list, marking the complete end of the Cash and Carry brand. Colonial Stores. Colonial Stores was once one of the nation's largest supermarket chains for much of the 20th century. The name Colonial emerged in the mid-1940s after a merger between Big Star and Little Star grocery stores. This was a dynamic period for the company. Colonial Stores introduced their famous CS Rooster logo in 1947, an easily recognizable symbol as they were busy converting all their stores to a self-service format, a revolutionary trend at the time. At its peak, the company boasted over 500 stores and operated in 11 states, showing the vast scale and influence of this chain. However, by the 1960s, the company reverted to the name Big Star as a major discount operation aiming to adapt to the market. By the 1970s, most Colonial stores had either closed or been converted into Big Star. Nevertheless, Big Star's fate was not much better. This chain survived until the early 1990s before also closing permanently, ending the journey of a once prominent name, Farmer Jack. Farmer Jack, a beloved grocery chain in Michigan and Ohio, originated in the 1920s and officially began operating under the name Farmer Jack in 1966 in Detroit, Michigan. The chain was known for its community-focused stores and diverse selection of fresh produce. In particular, Farmer Jack stood out for its close collaboration with local farmers, emphasizing the provision of fresh, local produce and high-quality meats. The in-store bakeries were also a major attraction, offering the enticing aroma of freshly baked bread and pastries. Not only that, Farmer Jack was also one of the first grocery chains in the region to introduce computerized checkout systems, a technological advancement that made payments quicker and more efficient. However, the chain faced many significant challenges. Farmer Jack attempted national expansion by acquiring 60 Safeway locations, but this effort quickly failed. A major strike by cashiers cost the company millions of dollars, severely undermining their competitive ability. Ultimately, Farmer Jack had to close or merge by 2007. Big Bear Stores. Big Bear Stores founded in 1933 in Columbus, Ohio by Wayne Brown, is an important name in American retail history. It was one of the first self-service grocery stores in the United States, pioneering the concept of allowing customers to retrieve items directly from the shelves. The store is entirely yours. This helped change how people shopped and significantly saved on labor costs, allowing Big Bear to offer lower prices. Big Bear was known for its giant warehouse-style locations, a novel and efficient shopping style. Not only that, it was also the first company to introduce motorized conveyor belts at checkout counters, an innovation that has become standard in modern supermarkets. However, the rise of larger national chains like Walmart and Kroger gradually impacted Big Bear. The company struggled to compete due to the scale and financial capabilities of these giant rivals. Cost and staff reductions aimed at maintaining profitability led to a decrease in service quality, and customers quickly noticed. In the early 2000s, the company faced serious difficulties, and in 2004, the last Big Bear stores closed, marking the end of a pioneer in the grocery industry. Eagle Food Center. Eagle Food Center was once a familiar icon in the American Midwest, serving customers in Illinois, Iowa, and many neighboring states. Originating in 1893 in Davenport, Iowa, this chain made its mark in retail history with a pioneering mindset, adopting a self-service model allowing customers to freely pick items in exchange for lower prices. This strategy satisfied most customers and gave them peace of mind during their shopping experience. For many locals, memories of Eagle are still very vivid, from thick advertising flyers packed with deals to double coupon programs that made customers unable to resist returning. The private label Eagle brand also became a reliable choice for families looking to shop smartly while ensuring quality. However, entering the 1990s, Eagle faced fierce competitive pressure from giants like Walmart and Jewel Osco. Despite efforts to change and keep up with the times, Eagle's limited scale and resources prevented it from maintaining its advantage. By 2003, the chain had to file for bankruptcy, marking the end of a once beloved brand. Food Fair, Pantry Pride. Food Fair, later known as Pantry Pride, was a popular grocery chain that had its heyday in the mid-20th century, primarily in the Northeast and Florida. Founded in the 1920s, Food Fair quickly established a reputation for large, bright stores and a commitment to offering a wide variety of products at competitive prices. It was one of the first chains to install air-conditioned stores, a desirable amenity at the time, providing a comfortable shopping experience for customers. The chain also introduced innovative self-service features, giving customers more freedom in their shopping process. In the 1960s, Food Fair changed its name to Pantry Pride, using the name from a private label of a smaller chain they acquired. Despite initial success, the chain faced increasing competition from larger retailers in the 1970s and 1980s. Financial troubles led to a series of bankruptcies. By the late 1980s, most Pantry Pride stores had either closed or been sold to competitors. By 1993, all of them had permanently closed, ending a chapter in the shopping history of the Northeast. Delchamps. Delchamps was a southern grocery chain founded in 1921. Delchamps was known for its large stores and diverse product selection. The chain was committed to fresh produce and high-quality meats, along with strong ties to local communities. It was also one of the first grocery chains in the South to adopt the concept of in-store bakeries and delis, providing maximum convenience for customers. The stores were known for being clean and well-organized, with friendly and knowledgeable staff, creating a pleasant shopping experience. In the 1980s, Delchamps even experimented with 24-hour superstore models, an effort to meet the growing demands of modern consumers. However, the chain also faced increasing competition from larger national chains. In 1997, the company was acquired by Jitney Jungle. By 2000, all Delchance-named locations had closed, leaving many loyal customers with regret. Many still believe that if this supermarket chain had survived and restructured in time, perhaps it would have been strong enough to thrive, even possibly curbing Walmart's local rise. Schwegmann Giant Supermarkets. Schwegmann began its story in 1869 as a small corner store in New Orleans, Louisiana, and gradually evolved into one of the first true supermarkets in the country. Schwegmann was known for its giant stores that not only offered groceries, but also a wide range of services, from pharmacies to dry cleaning, making it a true one-stop destination. The company's newspaper advertisements became iconic for their quirky and memorable style, leaving a strong impression. Schwegmann specifically promoted local seafood and fresh produce, aligning with New Orleans' culinary identity. Schwegmann was known for its fierce independence, often resisting acquisitions by large corporations to maintain its local roots. Their stores were considered precursors to the big box concept we see today. However, as larger national chains moved into the area and competition intensified, this family business struggled. A bad acquisition deal in the 1990s left the company short on cash. The last Schwegmann store closed in 1999. Although no longer in operation, their legacy is still fondly remembered by the people of New Orleans. If this video has brought back beautiful memories and nostalgic feelings for you, don't hesitate to hit the like and subscribe buttons so you don't miss our next journey down memory lane. Mars Supermarkets. Mars Supermarkets was a long-standing family-owned business in the Baltimore, Maryland area starting in the mid-1940s. Joseph Dina named his supermarket after a nearby seaplane called the Mars Seaplane. At its peak, Mars boasted 13 stores across Maryland, serving local communities. Joe sold his business stake to his two younger brothers, and they diligently ran it for over 50 years, maintaining its family nature and customer connection. However, in 2016, Mars faced growing challenges from the competitive market. They sold 5 of their stores to Weis Markets and decided to close the remaining locations. Despite attempting cost-cutting measures and operational improvements, Mars could not effectively compete with larger and more modern rivals like Wegmans and Harris Teeter, chains with different scales and strategies. The collapse of Mars Supermarkets is proof that even long-standing family businesses struggle to survive in an increasingly fierce retail market dominated by large chains. Jitney Jungle. Jitney Jungle was a chain of stores that started in Jackson, Mississippi in 1919. The name Jitney originated from a slang term for a 5-cent coin and was used to evoke the store's sense of savings and affordability, benefiting customers. Initially called Jitney Jingle, but a press error caused it to be referred to as Jitney Jungle, and this unique name stuck. Jitney Jungle was one of the first places to offer a cash and carry model, helping customers shop quickly and cost-effectively. At one point, it was the largest privately owned grocery chain in the United States, demonstrating its scale and influence. However, this prosperity came to an unfortunate end. In the mid-1990s, the family sold the company for $400 million, and by the end of the decade, it became a company burdened with debt. After acquiring Delchance, they declared bankruptcy 2 years later. Finally, Jitney Jungle was acquired by Winn-Dixie, and the remaining stores were rebranded, closing a volatile era for one of the largest grocery chains in the South. Bruno's. Bruno's was a familiar name to many residents of Birmingham, Alabama, founded in 1932 by Joe Bruno, who opened a corner grocery store just 800 square feet in size. From that humble beginning, Bruno's grew robustly. In the 1970s, they launched a discount store line called Food World, aiming to reach a broader customer base. By the early 1990s, Bruno's had become one of the top 40 grocery chains in the United States, a remarkable achievement for a family business. However, the chain suffered a tragic loss in 1991 when a plane crash killed top executives and members of the Bruno family, including Joe Bruno and his two sons. This tragedy dealt a heavy blow to the company as it lost key leaders and the personal touch that had kept it thriving. Afterward, the chain was sold off and gradually lost its identity. Bruno's supermarkets held on until 2009, when the company dissolved and what remained became Bell Foods. The name Bruno's, once a symbol of growth and family spirit, is now just a memory of a golden era, cut short by tragedy. Bi-Lo. Bi-Lo is a name that evokes many familiar memories for those who shopped in the South. In 1961, Frank Outlaw, a former Winn-Dixie executive, bought 4 grocery stores in Greenville, South Carolina, and renamed them Bi-Lo. With bull statues placed on the roofs of its stores, Bi-Lo quickly appealed to its own customer base. However, in 1977, Bi-Lo was sold to a Dutch food company, marking a significant change in ownership. The chain struggled for the next 10 years, filing for and emerging from bankruptcy multiple times, illustrating the financial challenges it faced. By 2021, the Bi-Lo name was completely retired after merging with Winn-Dixie to become Southeastern Grocers, a larger retail corporation. Although the name has disappeared, memories of Bi-Lo and its unique bull statues still linger in the hearts of those who were connected to it. Bohack. Bohack began its journey in 1887 with a small store in Brooklyn, founded by Henry Bohack. He expanded his network of stores throughout New York City and Long Island, and once had nearly 750 locations at its peak. Henry Bohack did not stop at groceries, but also ventured into gas stations and restaurants. People loved Bohack's because the store focused on creating a friendly and community feel for customers, a rare and welcome thing in the busy areas around NYC. Bohack's also produced several beloved private label products, including an extremely popular cheesecake brand. Other products, labeled Bohack's Best, included applesauce, white bread, pastries, coffee, and even beer, demonstrating variety and quality. However, the Great Depression put an end to Henry Bohack's other business ventures. Charles Bluedorn, the head of Gulf and Western Industries and a major shareholder of Bohack's, also faced difficulties during this recession, creating a domino effect that weakened the Bohack's chain. Multiple bankruptcies led to all stores permanently closing in 1977, leaving much regret for a New York shopping icon. Red Owl. Red Owl was a famous grocery chain in the Midwest, particularly beloved in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the Dakotas. Red Owl stores were easily recognizable by their bright red sign featuring a cartoon owl, which became a beloved and endearing mascot. This small store became a part of Minnesota culture and even appeared in the opening sequence of the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Unlike larger chains, Red Owl created a sense of familiarity with its smaller stores, focusing on friendly service and community engagement. They also developed their own private label product line, something quite rare at the time. The chain even appeared in the opening sequence of the Mary Tyler Moore Show, demonstrating its strong cultural influence in Minnesota. However, as giants like Cub Foods and SuperValu expanded, Red Owl gradually lost its advantage. In 1988, most stores were sold to SuperValu, while the rest closed or were rebranded. Nevertheless, one franchise store still operates in Green Bay as the last remnant of that legacy. Finast, First National Supermarkets. Finast was a grocery chain with a strong presence in the northeastern United States, particularly in Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey. Founded in the late 1800s, Finast built its solid reputation in the retail industry. The chain was known for its emphasis on value, with the slogan, "Finest quality, finest savings," a promise they strived to deliver. Finast had a diverse selection of private label items, often priced lower than major brands, helping customers save money. Finast was also one of the first grocery chains in the U.S. to introduce barcodes and scanning technology at checkout counters, making the shopping experience much faster and more efficient, an innovation we take for granted today. However, despite significant innovations, the chain struggled in the 1990s as competition from larger chains like Walmart continuously increased. In 1978, it was acquired by the Pick and Pay grocery chain. In the early 2000s, most Finast stores were rebranded under different names. The last stores closed in 1993, marking the end of a name that was once a symbol of convenience and value in the Northeast. Furr's Supermarkets. Furr's Supermarkets began in West Texas as a family business with a modest initial scale. The Furr brothers diligently expanded the company into New Mexico, building a solid network of stores. By the 1970s, they had grown the chain to 140 grocery stores and a popular restaurant chain called Furr's Cafeteria, demonstrating diversity and business success. However, in 1979, after overexpanding without sufficient financial resources, Furr's filed for bankruptcy, and the company was split into multiple parts. Although it remained one of the main grocery stores in Texas and New Mexico for a while, they could never secure enough investment capital to grow larger and compete with national chains. This lack of capital limited their ability to innovate and expand. By 2001, Furr's Supermarkets filed for bankruptcy again and liquidated all assets shortly thereafter, completely ending the chain's existence. Furr's is a testament to how even successful businesses can collapse without a solid management and financial strategy, especially when expanding too quickly. White Hen Pantry. White Hen Pantry, founded in 1965 in Elmhurst, Illinois, was a beloved convenience store chain, primarily in the Chicago area. For many Chicagoans, running into a White Hen store to grab a carton of milk, a loaf of bread, or their famous sandwiches was an indispensable part of daily life. These small but convenient shopping trips became memorable experiences. White Hen Pantry was known for its smaller, neighborhood-friendly stores, providing a cozy and familiar feel. One of its most iconic features was the deli counter, which offered fresh sandwiches, cold cuts, and salads, popular among many for a quick lunch. White Hen's compact size made it ideal for last-minute purchases or snack runs. Its iconic red and white logo became a symbol of convenience and community. However, as competition from larger convenience stores and grocery chains intensified, White Hen struggled to maintain its position. By 2006, the chain was acquired by 7-Eleven, and many locations were rebranded or closed, marking the end of a Chicago convenience icon. From the green stamps licked by hand to the rich aroma of coffee ground on the spot, these puzzle pieces have created a vivid picture of an era where humans spent time for each other more than for phone screens. Although modern life brings superior convenience and speed, perhaps deep down we still long for a bit of warmth and sincerity from those old grocery stores. If this video has touched beautiful memories in your heart, please share your story in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to join us on more meaningful trips back down memory lane in the future. See you in the next Journeys